Creative thinking for the workplace. Today we are looking at drawing connections across domains. The most original ideas almost never come from inside one field. They come from someone who looked sideways. Creativity is largely the art of connecting things that do not usually meet. Inside a single field, everyone has access to the same ideas, the same tools, and the same problems. That's why why good ideas rarely come from inside the field. They come from someone who looked sideways and asked, what if we do it a different way from what they're doing it now? When domains collide, I love this, what history produced. Every one of these breakthroughs came from someone who refused to stay in their lane. We look at biology and economics, Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin read economist Thomas Malthus on population competition and immediately saw how the same principle applied to species survival. Natural selection was an economic idea applied to biology. And next we go to architecture and medicine. Hospital design that heals. Architects studying how spaces affect mood partnered with medical researchers to redesign hospital rooms. Natural light, sight lines, and acoustic design were shown to measurably reduce patient recovery time. Calligraphy and technology, the Macintosh typography. Steve Jobs dropped out of college but audited a calligraphy class. Years later, the class became the foundation of the Mac's beautiful fonts, the first computer with typographic design. Gaming and education, gamified learning. I've put in a gamified learning tool for you this week, and I sure hope it works for you guys. I can't tell until I publish it, so keep me posted. I'm sure you guys will. So gaming and education, gamified learning. Game designers understanding of reward, loops, progressive difficulty, and intrinsic motivation completely transformed how educators think about engagement, producing platforms like Duolingo. Jazz and business. Improvisational leadership. Harvard Business School now teaches jazz improvisation as a leadership model. The way jazz musicians listen, respond, and lead without a fixed script maps directly onto high-performing team dynamics. Our professor, Chad Anderson, is a jazz musician. He's brilliant. He has albums on Bandcamp. You should listen to his music if you are into jazz. Okay, last but not least, fashion and finance. Trend forecasting as investment. Hedge funds now hire fashion trend analysts alongside economists. Pattern recognition from runway circles predicts consumer behavior 18 months ahead. A cross-domain edge most analysts do not have. And actually, I was thinking of the Met Gala, fashion and art, all about fashion and artist meeting. If you haven't checked it out this year, you should look at the costumes or the artwork that they've worn. The bubble dress, I think, might have been my favorite. I don't know. Why cross-domain thinking works. It's not magic. There's a mechanism, and once you understand it, you can do it deliberately. Analogical reasoning. Every field has solved problems that look different on the surface, but are structurally identical to problems in other fields. Cross-domain thinkers ask, what does this remind me of from somewhere completely different? The analogy is the insight. A real example of this is how Netflix solved the what to watch problem using algorithms originally designed for search engines. Next, we look at transfer of principles. Principles that govern one domain, physics, ecology, music, military strategy, often transfer with stunning precision to another. The principle doesn't change, the application does. That gap is where the idea lives. A real example is lean manufacturing from Toyota's factory floor became the foundation of lean startup mythology in Silicon Valley. I love this one, fresh eyes on old problems. Every field develops blind spots, assumptions so embedded that insiders can no longer see them. An outsider from another domain doesn't share those assumptions. That naivety is power, not weakness. A real example is a pediatric nurse redesigning Formula One pit stops for observation handoff procedures, reducing pit time by 30%. Think of the biggest problem you have in the field right now. This is a journal prompt for you. And I saw some chat questions that we have journal prompts, and I don't have an upload for you, but you still need to do them in your journal because this is really going to help you with your PowerPoint. It's going to give you more information to pull from. If you like, I could put it in as a grade. Just let me know. Journal prompt. Think of the biggest unsolved problem in your field right now. Don't try to solve it, just name it as clearly as you can. Once you have that problem, ask yourself, what field completely unrelated to mine has already solved a version of the same problem? Next, what principle from nature, music, sport, or architecture might apply here? So a little hint. Active learning, you can look up the principles from architecture, principles of sport, principles of music, principles of nature, possibly. So that is something that might help you in learning about this PowerPoint stuff that the lecture that I'm giving you. If I were a designer, a biologist, a chef, or a poet looking at this problem, what would I notice that I'm not noticing now? After writing, you shared the unexpected field you looked to and what it revealed. I guess I could do a chat for that, and so I'll write that down for me. Okay. One problem, 3 completely different domains. What does each reveal? Okay, a shared problem. A company's best employees keep leaving within 18 months. Retention is broken. We look at the ecology. How does a biological ecosystem retain its most important organisms? Think about what keeps keystone species in an ecosystem. Food, habitat, connection, and role. What is the company equivalent of habitat or food or interdependence? Next, we look at sports. How does a team keep its star players from leaving for arrival? Think about what elite athletes say when they choose to stay. Culture, coaching, challenge, legacy, teammates. Which of those translate directly and which have no equivalent in this company? Next, we'll look at music. Why do musicians stay in a band and why do they leave? Think about what holds the band together over decades versus what causes breakups. Creative freedom, recognition, shared vision, fairness. And what's the corporate equivalent to that? What field is so different from yours that your colleagues would laugh at you if you said it influenced your work? What would happen if you studied it seriously for 30 days? Your best ideas are waiting in a field you haven't studied yet. The wider your ecosystem, the more unexpected connections you can make. This week, add one input from a completely unrelated field, not adjacent, unrelated. Add that to your mind map, and that is where your next idea lives.